welcome to another edition of Sundays in Song. My name is Dr. Douglas Buchanan, and it's my great pleasure to be Director of Music Ministries at St. David's Episcopal Church, and also to be your tour guide for the music that will be offered this Sunday at St. David's. We're featuring the hymn Ein feste Burg ist unser Gott, or A Mighty Fortress is Our God, one of the most popular hymns of all time. We'll hear it first as an organ prelude by a composer named Richard T. Gore. Richard T. Gore was a composer and organist and professor at the College of Worcester, my alma mater. He wrote a number of organ preludes modeled after Bach. In fact, he was trying to complete Bach's Orgelbuchlein, that is, the little organ book. Bach set out to compose little organ preludes on different chorale tunes, never quite finished that set and went on to some others. Richard T. Gore took it upon himself to try to finish these. You'll hear that this sounds a lot like Bach's music, and it's a great pleasure to offer this piece by someone from my alma mater. We'll also be featuring Ein feste Burg in the closing voluntary, where you'll hear the finale of Mendelssohn's Reformation Symphony reduced for organ. I'm particularly excited about our offertory anthem this week. It's a world premiere by composer Anna Appleby, a British composer and one who's setting a lot of works for text as well as for dance and for opera. Now, although this piece, which is called If I Have Not Love, is a setting of the passage from 2 Corinthians, and we're not looking at 2 Corinthians this week, but it still resonates with the passages that we hear in the liturgy this Sunday. These passages speak to having the tongue of a teacher, listening and revealing an inner love, and trying to separate the wheat from the chaff in how we interact with the world. And this is very much at the heart of what we see at Anna Appleby's composition, in which she strips down several musical elements so that she just gets at some timbres, that is the sound colors of the music, and also explores some different textural elements. She uses these as vehicles to explore the meaning of the text, which first says, if I do all these things and don't have love, then I'm no more than a sounding gong or clanging cymbals. And it's really about love and that inner commitment that makes art and music and relationships so special. Here's a conversation that I recently had with Anna, where we get to talk about some of these things and some of the aspects that are important to her as a composer. I'm here with Anna Appleby, composer. We'll be premiering her piece, If I Have Not Love, this Sunday at St. David's. We're thrilled to be doing it. It's a lovely piece. We've started reading it through, and it's just been really exciting to get to know you and to get to know your work.
Thank you so much, Doug. I'm just so excited to have this piece premiered because it's been 5 years since I wrote it and it's never had a proper performance. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And also it's doubly exciting because this is my American premiere. I've never had a piece in the States as far as I know. So if I have, no one's told me about it.
It's always exciting to see your music, hop an ocean. It's exciting to share it with other people. So that's really special. Anyway, I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about a few aspects about the piece. Give me a little bit of background about what the piece, what the compositional process was like, what you were thinking of as you were writing it, because there's a lot of evocative text in it. So I'd just be curious to hear about that.
Great. Well, there's a bit of a story to this piece because I wrote 3 choral pieces called Timbral Verses, which were about different passages of the Bible that used instruments or referenced musical instruments. And I was really, really struggling with the first 2 because the first one is about Job and it's quite angsty and difficult, a very dissonant piece, and I just wasn't happy with it, and it was really difficult to sing. And I struggled with that for ages. And then I wrote the second movement, which was kind of almost too nice.
Uh-huh.
There wasn't enough depth to it, just about the trumpet sounding, yada, yada, yada. And then I finished those two, and I just had this feeling of, right, now to work. Now I know what I'm doing, because I'd been saving this Corinthians passage, which is very famous, rightly so, because it is just so evocative and meaningful to so many people. So I think I was slightly nervous of setting it because it's so famous, but I really, really wanted to communicate how it makes me feel, partly about music and sound, because there's all this imagery in it to do with, clanging cymbals and quite they're made to sound kind of almost inhuman in the passage. So I like this idea of making the choir into a bell or something kind of stark and metallic, and then transforming that idea through the piece into something more human and not quite resolved, but there's some journey there through this groovy passage and towards a more joyful, hopeful, transcendent feeling of but if I do have love, maybe something wonderful can happen. That sounds too cheesy, but no, that was...
Yeah.
So there was just this wonderful moment where I just... I've been thinking about this text for years and years. My mum's a priest, so scripture's always been important to me, and I knew this passage really well. I learned it off by heart at one point just because I loved it. And suddenly I could just hear the piece, and that was a really special moment. So it's wonderful when that comes together,
and I do feel the harmonic language that you create, particularly at the beginning. You have these chords that are, you're saying, sort of almost inhuman, and they play around with the harmonic series, so it feels like these inharmonic, inhuman instruments like bells and gongs that have these very complicated timbres. And I think you replicate that really, really nicely with the sorts of harmonies that you choose, and that gives us sort of an impetus for that journey that requires, as you say, it's not a traditional resolution like we might be used to, but it does give us there's a certain settling that does happen through the course of the piece, and that's it's very well affected.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do a lot of work with a variety of, it seems like a variety of media, with text and with opera and with dance. Have there been any partnerships recently that you've been really excited about with those sorts of things?
Yeah, so I love working with dancers because I think when I'm just writing music for myself, sometimes I run out of inspiration, I run out of impetus and energy, and that's exactly what dance has. It has movement, it has life, and I think music and dance are such natural partners for each other, and weirdly people sometimes isolate them, which is fine. You can have dance without music, and it can have its own rhythm and its own beauty, and you can have music without dance, of course, but there is some intrinsic link between the two, and it's really freed me up collaborating with choreographers because their language, their practice has given me that that energy. So I love that.
That's wonderful. It's great to have those ideas to bounce off. And just at St. David's, I run a choir that works with people who have experienced homelessness, and I noticed that you have also been working with a similar demographic in Manchester.
Yeah, so I've worked with an organisation called Streetways Opera, who they've actually branched out internationally into a movement called With One Voice. I've worked with them twice now, but the first time I worked with them, it really just opened my whole mind about what music for amateurs is and can be, and the fact that really we're all amateurs. Music is for everyone, there's no ownership really of music. And working with these people who've experienced homelessness and who have such beautiful ideas and powerful voices and powerful stories, and who throw themselves into performing 100%. It just gave me so much inspiration, and also so much respect for them, because I realized that actually I hold back. As a professional, we often hold back because it's scary putting yourself completely out there in a creative context. And these performers, music is just completely all-consuming for them, and they live and breathe it when they're performing, and it's just an honor to work with them, actually. So that's changed my whole perspective on being an artist, being a professional musician, and about whether there really is a divide between community music and professional music. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there has to be.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, and that sort of brings us back full circle about it's so easy. I know I've gone through periods as a professional musician where I do feel like I just, okay, well, I need to play the notes for this gig, and then I need to get to the other gig. And it's very easy to become that sounding brass and the gong and the cymbal, and to forget the love that's necessary to really allow music to be a gift and to be present to that moment where you're creating art with the people around you and for the audience that you're with. And so that those moments when you see, particularly, as you say, when we're working with amateur musicians or people who are, amateur, really are doing it for the love of it, that can be a very transformative thing. So I think that's really special that you've gotten to experience that.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
And this is what I feel about sacred music as well. I think in sacred contexts, it takes us out of ourselves. In some ways, it centers us in ourselves the most, but it also takes us out of ourselves and enables us to express something beyond all of the maybe unnecessary complexity of life, and just strip things back to the essentials. And I think this piece is about what is essential. And I think about it still, even though I wrote it 5 years ago, it often goes over my head, because I really believed what I was writing. And sometimes I write a piece and I don't have complete conviction with it, and it always shows. And this one, I really just wanted to say that one thing. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go on that journey for myself as well, because sometimes I do write music because I'm trying to impress someone or make a point that's not actually an important point to make. Mm-hmm. And if I remember this piece and this passage from the Bible, it helps me to think about what is essential. What do I actually want to say here?
Well, I think it's great, and the way that you've pared it down, and we'll be thrilled to share it this Sunday, and to bring this piece to the United States. So this will be very exciting. Thank you so much for sharing your music and your story with us, Anna. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Doug, and thank you so much to the choir. I am just thrilled that it's being performed, and I really hope you enjoy singing it.
Thank you so much. A world premiere is truly a special event. It is a singular occurrence, the only time that we have the first time to hear a piece. And your presence changes it, changes the acoustic, changes how we hear it. And it makes it unique, your very presence there. So I look forward to sharing this piece, If I Have Not Love, by Anna Appleby, as well as all the other music with you this Sunday. I look forward to singing with you.